This video is sponsored in part by YouGov.
Above the letter X, make a cross. So I assume this letter X in the sentence. I don't see how you learn anything from this.
How are you supposed to complete all of this in under 10 minutes?
Us talking back and forth is also probably people talking inside their own heads back and forth.
And we have both finished college.
Yeah. My name is not Jim Crow. It's Mr. Beat, okay? But who is Jim Crow?
Well, you're probably already familiar with Jim Crow laws, the state and local laws that enforced racial segregation in the United States from the 1870s to the 1960s, mostly in southern states.
But Jim Crow was not a real person.
The phrase goes back to a song and dance called Jump Jim Crow, created by this racist dude, Thomas D. Rice. Rice would wear makeup to make himself look like he was black, and then performed the song to make fun of African Americans. This started the horrible tradition of minstrel shows, performed mostly by white actors wearing blackface makeup to create racist caricatures of black men.
A common character they pretended to be at these minstrel shows? Jim Crow, of course.
Typically portrayed as dumb, cowardly, lazy, and wearing torn-up clothes. By the mid-1800s, racists called any black man a, quote, Jim Crow.
Today, though, we often think of Jim Crow as a symbol of that entire era of racial segregation. We even often call it the Jim Crow era.
If you were an African American living in a southern state between the 1880s and 1960s, Jim Crow laws completely controlled where you could or could not go, what you could or could not do, and who you could or could not hang out with. Blacks in southern states not only attended segregated schools, but had to use separate waiting rooms, public restrooms, and even drinking fountains. Restaurants, stores, movie theaters, libraries, hotels, churches, and even hospitals were segregated based on the color of your skin. The Supreme Court even chimed in to say these segregation laws were okay as long as both facilities were of the same quality. This was in response to a Louisiana law that segregated its train cars based on skin color.
I have a video about that case. Actually, 2 videos. What the heck?
By enforcing racial segregation, Jim Crow laws institutionalized white supremacy in nearly every area of public and private life. They were designed to deny African Americans equal access to rights, resources, and opportunities. It created this horrible culture that turned blacks into second-class citizens. Quote, if you were black, you were nothing. You might have $100 in your pocket, but if you went to the store, you would wait at the side until all the clerks got through with all the white folks. No matter if they didn't have change for $1. Then the clerk would finally look at you and say, oh, did you want something? I didn't see you there.
But it wasn't just Jim Crow laws.
There was redlining. Banks refused mortgages to those living in black neighborhoods, denying wealth building opportunities for African Americans. Some neighborhoods banned African Americans from living there entirely. Police often antagonized blacks. All white juries often ruled unfairly in trials involving black defendants. Blacks often couldn't join unions.
And there was all the voter suppression.
Blacks often couldn't vote in either of the 2 major political parties' primaries. States gerrymandered districts to limit black representation in government. There were poll taxes, or fees you had to pay to vote, which disproportionately hurt African Americans, of course. And finally, there were literacy tests. These were tests, presumably, every voter had to take to prove they were able to read. The problem was, these tests were ridiculous, nearly impossible to pass. Why were they like this?
It's designed to make you fail.
Yeah, more specifically, they were designed to prevent African Americans from voting. Many white voters were exempted from having to take these tests.
We're not going against the 15th Amendment because everybody has to take the exact same test.
Unless, of course, your grandparents could vote, in which case you were grandfathered in.
That's right.
You don't have to take the test. Only people whose grandparents couldn't vote have to take the test. And so that automatically means that only people of a certain group.
Even if they did have to take them, they were graded more easily.
So how difficult were these literacy tests? Well, I decided to take one, and so did my colleague, Sharon McMahon.
I just want to see if you're interpreting this the same way I did.
there's a good chance that there's at least some discrepancy between us.
So how well did we do? Oh, don't worry, I'll show you how well we did. YouGov is my favorite way to take surveys and make extra cash and earn rewards. I originally started using it when I was stuck in line at the DMV, but it's just a great, quick way to answer questions and get rewarded for it. Here I am taking a survey while I'm waiting for my dog to poop. Don't worry, she eventually found a good spot to do her business. Anyway, YouGov is free to join and so easy to get extra cash. As a member, you'll earn points for giving your actual opinions that matter by completing short surveys and polls. Not to brag, but I've legit got gift cards on there due to all the polls I've completed. So be heard and get rewarded for it. Tap my link to take surveys and earn cash with YouGov. Thanks to YouGov for sponsoring this video. I heard you've been skipping ad reads. Huh? I wouldn't be doing such things if I were you. I don't know what I'm doing carrying this bat around. Anyway, so yeah, Sharon McMahon and I, we took a Jim Crow era literacy test. And it sucked. Sharon is also a social studies teacher who, like me, used to be in the classroom, but now mostly just teaches history and civics to folks online. Her main platform is Instagram, but she also has a wildly successful newsletter on Substack called The Preamble, a podcast called Here's Where It Gets Interesting, and a book called The Small and the Mighty, a book about some unsung heroes in American history. I got to meet her recently when she came to my hometown. That was pretty cool and stuff. And then I tricked her into taking a literacy test. Ha! Specifically this one. Oh look, it's Louisiana again. This was an actual literacy test Louisiana gave to black voters in the 1960s. I used to give a different test to my students. I figured you did the same.
Yeah.
And the reason why I chose this one, frankly, is because it was a little bit shorter.
In the 60s, there is a constitutional law professor who sends a literacy test to all of the practicing constitutional law professors in the United States and asks them to take the test without looking up answers, without phoning a friend, and to mail it back to him. 70% of the constitutional law professors answered the questions incorrectly. Wow. So if the top legal minds in the country can't get these answers right, then how is the little guy, an average citizen, supposed to get them right? And then, of course, the scoring is all subjective.
It's all subjective, yep.
So that's cool.
The test had to be taken in under 10 minutes, and even a single wrong answer meant you failed the entire test. I had taken the test before, and I wanted to see if Sharon would get the same answers I did. If anything, this is a test to see if you pay close attention to detail, which unfortunately for me, I often don't. So each letter, or should I just draw a line around the entire sentence? Okay, I'm just gonna draw a line around the number or letter of this sentence.
The number or letter of this sentence, like it doesn't know which one it is.
A few moments later.
My interpretation of that would be like, so I'm drawing a line around the number? What is a line around the number?
A circle. There can't be any angles, right? It has to be continuous.
So a circle, but yet we're saying a line around the number. I'm circling the number one. That's what I'm gonna do.
I drew circles around each and every one of the letters because maybe I'm an idiot. You did it much quicker than me, but you're right. It said or, and so yeah, there's only one number there. So, but there's also numbers for the other questions, and there's numbers further down. Mm-hmm. So, number 2, draw a line under the last word in this line.
So am I underlining the word line? Is that how you interpreted it?
That last line or the first line?
I interpret that to mean under the last word in the sentence.
I did too, yeah. My lines are horrible. I can't do a straight line. But when you say this line, are you really saying that line? Because it could be that line. This can be that, so.
True enough.
Number 3, cross out the longest word in this line.
And again, we're making the assumption that line means sentence in this scenario. I'm crossing out the word longest.
That's what I did, yeah.
Okay.
Draw a line around the shortest word in this line.
So I'm circling the word I'm circling the word Draw a line, the word
That's what I did too, yep.
But I feel a lot of people would think that the letter A is a letter. I can see a large number of people circling the word in, a 2-letter word.
Yeah, because the fact that A and I are letters of the alphabet and words, that can be tricky. Circle the first letter of the alphabet in this line.
The first? Nobody would ever write instructions that way or utter a sentence like that. Circle the first letter. No, that's not a thing that you would say in conversation or that you would write. So I guess I would circle the letter C. Is that what you did?
No.
Okay, so it's an alphabet.
I circled the A in alphabet because it was the first letter of the alphabet.
Oh, so you saw the word alphabet and you were like, circle the first letter in the word alphabet.
Yeah.
I interpreted it to mean that there's a letter in this line. It's a letter in the alphabet and circle the first one that's in the alphabet.
Man.
Yeah, you can see how this could easily be weaponized.
Yep. All right, number 6. In the space below, draw 3 circles, one inside, engulfed by the other.
One would assume it means inside or engulfed by, meaning like those mean the same thing.
It doesn't say or, it just says engulfed by in parentheses, so.
As though that means the same thing as inside.
Go ahead and do it on the paper and show it to me because I want to see, we'll compare.
Okay. Okay, this is what I drew.
Okay.
Yeah, mine was similar.
But again, the word engulfed, that's not a 5th grade vocabulary word.
Right. They would be like, what does that mean?
And I feel like the fact that they put engulfed by in parentheses is meant to throw somebody off. Mm-hmm. It's meant to make you second guess whether it actually means inside.
All right, number 7. Above the letter X, make a small cross.
Okay, now, Jesus dying on the cross, or X marks the spot cross? Railroad crossing.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean? Like this means cross or this can be cross. Yeah. These are two. And then how are we defining small?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Or I suppose you could also make it a plus sign cross.
What are you going with?
I'm going to go with what I think people in the South in the 1960s might want, which is Jesus dying on the cross above the letter X.
That's what I did. And
okay.
I mean, there's different X's on this sheet as well. We assume that it's in the same line, but
maybe it's not.
At least we're answering the same on most of these. Draw a line through the letter below that comes earliest in the alphabet.
Draw a line through the letter below that comes earliest in the alphabet. So basically a slash through the letter that is first in sequence in the alphabet. That's how I interpret that. And so that would probably be the letter B.
That's what I did. Yeah. I wonder how many people they got with the time limit, because I'm sure a lot of people didn't realize how quickly time was going when they were trying to sort this out. 9 is similar to 8, so I'm assuming we'll get similar answers. Draw a line through the 2 letters below that come last in the alphabet.
But are you supposed to draw one line through each letter or one line through both that the line connects to each other? Because it doesn't say draw lines through the 2 letters.
Just a line. Okay.
Draw a line through the 2 letters. So, okay, I'm going to go like this. Did you draw 2 separate lines? Did you go slash?
I did slash, yes.
I drew like one line.
Oh, no, I did the slash. Okay.
Because it says a line. You drew 2 lines.
Yeah, mine are 2 lines. You're right. I would have got that wrong, wouldn't I?
I don't know. Maybe I would get it wrong and be like, what's this giant? Who knows? Who's grading this? Nobody knows.
Okay, number 10 in the first circle below, write the last letter of the first word beginning with L. I hated reading that just now out loud. That hurt.
I'm going to write the letter T in that circle.
You're doing that because?
Because it's the last letter of the first word that begins with L in this sentence.
Okay, yeah, I did the same thing.
That is like a contortion of logic.
It's kind of crazy to say this, but that question is a little bit more straightforward. It's just that it's definitely difficult because you have to really focus. Again, attention to detail. Okay, 11, cross out the number necessary when making the number below 1 million. The number, that's right, it's singular.
There are 4 numbers to cross out to make this 1 million.
More than that, I thought. You want it below 1 million.
Below 1 million. No, you're reading this as below 1 million. I'm reading it as this is the number below.
I think I got this one wrong.
Cross out the number necessary. There is not one number to cross out.
If you just crossed out the number 1, it'd all be zeros, so it would be...
But then it wouldn't be 1 million if you're trying to make this 1
Well, no,
million.
it says you're making the number below 1 million, so 0 is below 1 million.
Or you're making this number, the number below the instructions, you're making this into the number 1 million.
But it still says singular, cross out the number, not numbers.
Right. But so yes, in order to make this 1 million, I need to get rid of 4 zeros.
This is like the hardest question on here. What are you going to go with?
I don't read it to mean less than 1 million. I read it to mean this number right here
Right.
below the instructions.
Make it a million.
I don't know, man.
I think your answer is better than mine because I just automatically assumed they're talking about, fewer than 1 million. But yeah, they didn't use the word fewer. They said below. Draw a line from circle 2 to circle 5 that will pass below circle 2 and above circle 4.
Okay, this is kind of what I did. I made like a little wave like this. Below circle 2, above circle 4.
Yeah, that's what I did too.
It was at this point talking to Sharon that I realized I had only printed the first page off of the test.
Yeah, this test actually has 30 questions. I don't know if you saw all of that, but we don't have to do them all.
Oh,
Yeah, I was an idiot.
It doesn't matter. I think people are getting the gist.
I can't get over this. You said there's actually 30 questions to this, so I only have 13. And so they were expected to answer all 30 in 10 minutes?
Yeah, 13 is just on the first page. And then there are 2 more pages. Like, look at the line of numbers below and place on the blank the number that should come next. And it's a sequence that says 3, 6, 9, blank 15. Here's one you might love. Spell backwards forwards. Print the word vote upside down, but in the correct order.
Oh my gosh, these are more interesting.
What in the correct order?
And if they're upside down, sometimes it could be like a reflection, like a...
If it's upside down, the correct order would be to be able to read it right side up. Okay, here's another one. Draw a figure that is square in shape, divide it in half by drawing a straight line from its northeast corner to its southwest corner, and then divide it once more by drawing a broken line from the middle of its western side to the middle of its eastern side.
Okay, let me do that. Hold on. The middle of its western side.
A few moments later.
So this is how I would do this. See if that's... Yeah, it's a broken line in the middle there.
Oh, that's not what I would do at all. Okay, I'll show you what I would do. And I'm not saying you're wrong and I'm right. That's just not how I interpreted those instructions. This is how I interpreted it to mean.
Oh. So you go all the way from east to west. I thought there was like a part where it said start in the middle of one of the sides.
I interpret starting in the middle to mean in the middle
Okay,
here.
then. Huh? We're both right, by the way.
We are both correct. There's more than one way to skin that cat. Write down on the line provided what you read in the triangle below.
Oh, I've seen this one before.
Paris in the spring. So if you just read that quickly, because remember, I just said Paris in the spring, and then I said, Paris in the spring.
The.
It would make perfect sense for me to be like Paris in the spring.
Right, by this point, you're on a time crunch, and so you're rushing to get it done, so you're just...
Print a word that looks the same whether it is printed frontwards or backwards. You have to come up with that.
Lol, LOL.
Divide a vertical line in 2 equal parts by bisecting it with a curved horizontal line that is only straight at its spot bisection of the vertical.
I fell asleep halfway through when you were reading that, so
It's spot bisection of the vertical? Excuse me? It's nonsensical.
So these get more difficult at the end.
Write every other word in this first line, so every other word theoretically in this first line, and print every third word in same line. Original type smaller, and first line ended at comma.
Yeah.
No voting for me, but capitalize the 5th word that you write. Again, these are actual scans of a test. This is not somebody, she just retyped it wrong. And apparently that will determine if you're literate enough to vote.
I feel bad now because when I asked you to take this test, I was like, oh, it's only 13 questions. It won't take too long for. And then taking this whole thing, what would actually take me probably at least 30 minutes.
We're taking this for fun to be like, oh my gosh, crazy. Like this actually was going to determine whether you were granted real world rights. And then you knew that there was a very high probability that the test was going to be graded unfairly by an adversarial judge, by somebody who quite likely didn't want you to be able to vote and who was going to take every opportunity to look for mistakes. And again, the directions say if you make one mistake, you fail. So chances are good that a lot of people would have been told they failed within the first couple of questions, and nobody would even bother grading to the end because they were like, oh, you know what? It wasn't supposed to be that. You failed at number 4. So add in the nerves, the environment that you view as potentially adversarial or hostile, and it's a recipe for disenfranchisement.
The Louisiana literacy test is just one of many you can currently find online to try to take yourself. All of them are ridiculous. I used to have my American history students take them to show how absurd they were. You did a similar thing?
I've done it both ways, where I gave them the test without telling them what it was for, without saying, oh, this is the test you'd have to take to be able to vote. You know, like I did just this whole kind of like everybody failed this test, and without even carefully going over their answers. How do you know we all failed? I've also given this to students where I told them what it was for and, you know, like asked them to carefully apply themselves.
In conclusion, Jim Crow era literacy tests were an example of how governments could still discriminate even when laws already existed that technically banned discrimination. Southern governments justified these literacy tests by saying that every citizen had to take them and that they were neutrally applied. Neutrally applied my butt. These tests were not neutral. These tests were not about literacy. They were weapons meant to strip African Americans of their political power while upholding white control of government and thus white supremacy. Only after Congress passed the Voting Rights Act of 1965 did these literacy tests get banned. In 1970, the Supreme Court upheld the literacy test ban in a case known as Oregon v. Mitchell. Today, if you're an American citizen and you want to vote, all you have to do is register, which still can be a pain in the butt and a modern form of voter suppression, but I digress. Yeah, check out that video up there, will you? I go into voter suppression quite a bit in that video. Thanks to Sharon McMahon for joining me for this video. Be sure to check out all of her social media thingies. So, which test should I take next? Let me know down below. And thank you for staying curious.